Okay, on July 16th, the president, he addressed the nation, and his main focus was election security and integrity with a push for reforms ahead of the midterms. And I want to give my overall opinion of everything that he talked about. And as you can see, I wrote down a bunch of things that covers his whole address. And the ones that I'm going to focus on, of course, he talked about his what he's doing in Iran and all that stuff, and we've heard it all. And on those things, I could make a video just on that. But this one here, I'm going to primarily focus on the election stuff that he talked about. He basically mentioned that there was all kinds of shenanigans going on with China getting involved in our electoral system, or election system. I shouldn't say electoral, but election system. And you can go to the whitehouse.gov, and he's released all of the information there. There's documents to prove everything that he's talking about. And the stuff that really caught my eye was, we do not have secure elections, and that's all there is to it. We haven't, absolutely have not, and there is absolute concrete evidence to back up this claim, because apparently they, in these documents, it clearly shows that the FBI, the CIA, all of his agencies, all of the three-letter justice agencies, I call them, were well aware of, all the way back to 2018, while he was still president the first term, that they had overwhelming evidence that China had access to 220 million voters in America, had information on all of these people, and they were doing everything that they could to undermine President Trump while he was trying to be president. And they were doing everything they could to, one, get him to resign. Two, if they couldn't get him to resign, they wanted to make sure that he couldn't get reelected in 2020. So it sounds to me like whatever China was doing, it worked, because he didn't get reelected in 2020. And I'm not going to get into the details of it, but this is just the tip of the iceberg by the looks of it. And later on today, I've got the day off. I've got a few errands to run this morning. When I get home, I am going to be doing a real deep dive into these documents that President Trump had declassified, and now we can see them at whitehouse.gov, I guess. But this goes all the way back. For me, I did research with the CIA, the FBI, and their whole role in everything, all the way back to John F. Kennedy. Actually, I think it went right back to Eisenhower. But John F. Kennedy was the one that primarily said, we got to do something about the CIA. They've gone too far. And I can't remember his exact words, but he said something to the effect of, we need to splinter it and let it blow in the wind and be gone. And the reason being is, 9 times out of 10, whoever gets elected and winds up in the White House, when the CIA and the FBI and the intelligence agencies, they feel that they own and operate Washington. And if they're not thinking that they own and operate, they definitely think that they're some kind of protector of Washington. There's an establishment in Washington, and these three-letter agencies spend most of their time making sure that anyone who gets in that office, if they start coming up with harebrained ideas of interfering with the establishment down there or the gig that they've got all set up, well, that's when presidents can get killed, and John F. Kennedy is a very good example of it. They released documents quite a long time ago. Year ago, was it now? I can't remember. But in those documents, it clearly showed that the CIA was well aware of all kinds of things being in plan and in motion leading up to the assassination of John F. Kennedy. And Kennedy was going to use his powers to shut down the CIA. He wanted to get rid of it. But again, this is my opinion, my speculation, but I think that they used the powers that they had and finagled it so that John F. Kennedy wound up dying. He was unable to pursue that endeavor of closing the doors of the CIA. Fast forward to now. Fast forward to now. With what President Trump said in his address, China was able to get all kinds of information, and they were able to get into our system and kind of manipulate it and do things to get the results that they wanted. And if you want my honest opinion, the only way that they were able to do that was more than likely the CIA, the FBI, and that establishment down there in Washington allowed this to happen. Because also in these documents at whitehouse.gov, their own agencies are basically admitting that they were working, I don't know so much about with China, but they were well aware of what China was doing. And in 2018, for example, President Trump even pointed it out in his address that this information was right there. They had this information, and never once did they brief the president about it. These intelligence agencies got the information, but kept it from the commander-in-chief. Why? Well, it doesn't take an Einstein to figure it out. These agencies felt like they were threatened by Donald Trump. So, instead of working with Donald Trump and fighting an adversary, being able to get into our political election system, no, they worked with them to help them to work against Donald Trump. Which leads me to another point that President Trump was making during his speech. One of them was, these people that allowed this to happen, this is, in my opinion, Trump didn't say this, this is my opinion, that's being a goddamn traitor. That's being a freaking traitor. So now, these people that were involved in it and allowed this to happen and actually put a red carpet out and helped make it happen, these people need to be investigated. They need to be charged and sent to court. Now, they have their right to due process. Yes, I agree with that. And the due process by rights with the evidence is available, in my opinion, these bastards need to be put into jail and to be made example of, so that if anybody gets ideas that they need to do things to put a president in his right place, yeah, these people need to face justice for that, because that is totally and completely un-American. That's anti-American. What the hell are these people thinking? So then he moved on to talk about Save America Act. And in my opinion, that's probably one of the single most important pieces of legislation, that needs to be passed. Definitely. Sue Collins, if you ever see this video, I know you probably won't, but if you ever do, absolutely pass this bill and tell your constituents there with you. Pass this bill. Get this bill through, because we have got to try to regain the integrity that our election system had. We really need to restore it, and we need to restore the confidence of the American voter. Right now, I don't feel confident. I don't. Get this bill passed, and I'll feel confident. Why? Because it requires every American voter to have to produce an ID. If you don't have an ID, you can't vote. And that's going to eliminate a lot of this mail-in ballot stuff where fraud is probably rampant. What has happened in the past, there's nothing we can do to change it. It happened. 2020 has gone by. It's over with. But now we got to focus on the future of this country and our children and our grandchildren and those children. We've got to make sure that there is a secure, confident voting system so that elected officials can be elected in a proper way, not the way it has been in 2020. I mean, there is no question that there was so many shenanigans going on, and it's too late now to fix whatever happened back then. It's over with. It's water under the bridge. But at the same time, it's all the evidence we're ever going to need to prove that things have gotten totally and completely out of hand. And it's time, we the American people, and it's time for Washington to step up to the plate and get this country back to what the founders designed and get away from all of this crooked crap that's going on. Okay, now, in the next video, what I think I'm going to focus on is how the media worked with these agencies to not only help suppress all of this information, but work against the President of the United States. And I want to do some research and see if there's anything that can be done about a media that is doing stuff like this. It cannot be defined in any other way than being traitorous. Mainstream media worked with these agencies, and they screwed President Trump and his administration to the moon and back on this stuff. But that'll be the next one. So I want to thank you if you stayed this whole time. I hope you enjoyed it. My name is Arnold Batts, and this is Politically Unfiltered, my channel. I'm very proud of it. I like it. I hope a lot more people get involved. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. I definitely want to hear what you have to say. Let's definitely have a conversation about this. This has got to be one of the single most important issues that we all need to get out into the light and get it exposed, and let's all work together to get it cleaned up so it doesn't happen again. Okay, you guys have a good weekend. We'll see you in the next video. We be gone.